So, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Us three. So I'm here with Joe and with Anne-Marie. Thank you very much for taking up this invitation. And I'm here with our awesome pen microphone, as you can see, very fashionable. And today we are, as three, we are going to talk a bit about the driving forces and what's going to happen, or what we think is going to happen in the next 12 months. Since 12 months in augmented reality time, it's a lot of time with a lot of changes. And you, Anne-Marie, as someone that you as a coordinator of the VR and AR Global Summit, and at the same time also someone in contact with so many people in this market, you of all people probably know best how this speed is taking up. So what do you think, and what would be the first driving force that you think will hit the market in 2019 that will push forward augmented reality?
Thank you for the pen microphone. Well, as we were chatting about earlier, I see, while I'm booking the show, a lot of changes in AR hardware and different things that are happening, especially being over here in Portugal compared to what's in North America and what's available. There's just a whole different market that's happening all over the world. So, I mean, things I'm excited about are HoloLens 2, MWC next week, and to see what that is and how that plays out and how available it is. I know, in Toronto, and friends of mine have gotten their new North glasses, which I don't think have hit the market over here, which are really cool, where you have the display of whatever you want, your email or time, date, and directions in there. But there's so many. A Magic Leap obviously is awesome, but there's so many that have come and gone that you don't even hear about if you're not in the industry. So I'm really interested to see what will be coming up for that. When I'm calling people to book for the show, some aren't ready, some have already gone off the radar and closed down. So it's hard to keep track of what's going on there. Yeah,
and what do you think will be probably the major changes in our lives, in our ways to use the internet, in our ways to use the World Wide Web, when these glasses start being sold, as pretty much Magic Leap is being sold all around the US through AT&T stores? What will be the major impact? And right now that you are in Europe and that you are in touch, what do you think will probably change the most, and what will be probably the main difference between the usage that people do of augmented reality hardware on the other side of the pond and on this one?
That's a big question. I'm definitely not an expert in this, but for me personally as a consumer, I love something like the North glasses. I don't love the idea of my emails popping up in my eyes. I think that would stress me out just a little bit because so many come in. But I love the idea of like directions. I love the idea of being, like the augmented windows in your car, having directions and that sort of thing, as opposed to walking around with my phone. A little directionally impaired here. But I also think that enterprise-based, it will be amazing to have that functionality as opposed to having a phone and a laptop and all kinds of different devices. I think having all of that and being able to see it super easily will be great. I think for training in HR, it will be absolutely amazing. And we were talking earlier about the military contracts. I can 100% see how that will make such a huge difference in their lives and their training and their ROI. So I think that, I'm from North America, so I see a lot of those at markets because I've gone to a lot of the major shows over there, and they're just coming over here. But it'll be interesting to see who actually makes it and who doesn't, based on how different the markets are and what people are looking for.
But and as you said, right, there were a lot of hardware players that came, that went, and the mainstream never actually caught up with them. Right now, the major one, I guess, would be like what, Meta, sorry, They were, I don't know, but they are coming back, right? I'm not really sure, but I think there's a second life there, but still.
I think there's been some funding in one of their divisions.
Okay.
I'm not sure if the whole company will come back as one, but I think some of their coding and some of their software is actually being purchased. So at the moment.
Great. So again, long live augmented reality zombies. But well, and Joe, thank you also for coming here. Joe, besides being possibly the person that I know that has been tinkering with the HoloLens for the most time. He is also the person responsible for partnerships at NextReality, and he is pushing forward also a creative agency, which we are very much looking forward for it to come to the light of the day. And it has, I don't know if we can. If you can, well, if you can say, you should actually definitely talk about the name, because the name is exactly. Then we'll do it the next webinar. But also tell me a bit. What do you think about this impact? How is going to the hardware? How is it going to change our lives? Especially now talking a bit more about the business to business side. How do you think that it will change the way that we are doing business with companies, especially internationally, since your take is, taking NextReality to, other realities outside our market?
I mean, when it comes to hardware, I think one aspect that is always kind of forgotten is the processor and processor speed, and anything from our phones, from our computers, to any of these new headsets. As you know, working hand in hand with developers, coders, and programmers, we could always develop something, but then we always have to wait for the hardware to catch up to it because we're always running into processors issues. So I think the large players at the moment in the industry have kind of realized that now, and are working directly with companies like ourselves, doing a lot of R&D projects to actually see where the development is and what we actually need on the software aspect. More on as a processor, being able to handle a brighter light, better lens in front of your eyes, more storage, quicker, transfer of files and uploading and downloading.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, that takes me to a really interesting point someone made like 2 weeks ago. When we were talking a bit about how, Microsoft HoloLens, after like 3 years, still is like the reference experience for augmented reality / mixed reality glasses. So in that sense, and I think that one thing that really helps, and this was brought to light by a friend, is that we have a community. We have, like, Microsoft has this network of partners, and these partners have already bet and they committed to creating content. So content development is key to promoting new hardware and new experiences, or else the hardware will just stand there and it won't be like leveraged. So opposed to that, like Magic Leap, that did this huge, from what my standing point, this huge marketing stunt around, this great, fantastic glasses that would hit the market, and that had whales, would put whales jumping from one side to the other, and it would be great. The issue was that as they were a bit secretive, and still are in a sense, they kind of missed out on the opportunity to build from scratch, or from the top, that same community. So right now that is happening, but at the same time it's not like, it doesn't really hit me as being something that can compete directly with an already stand-up or already created community like the one that deals with mixed reality. and actually, I'm saying this because, full disclosure, we are also part of the International Association of Microsoft Certified Partners, and in that sense, we also participate with the special interest group that creates a yearly report on the status of mixed reality. What I see is that people are, really enthusiastic about it. My question, there was a question. The question is, so how do you feel, and how much on the business to business side, how much do you feel that the experience, designing the experience, the user experience is key for 2019 to be the year where augmented reality takes us off as the digital transformation driving force inside companies?
Oh, that's a great question. Let me see where I could kind of start with this. I think, kind of going back to the hardware, and then now we have, companies like Meta, with the HoloLens. We have these other new players. What are their names that they just released?
Lots of them.
I think in the end, one of the most important things is it's all about marketing. And I've been in this, mixed reality space for close to 15 years now. And one thing we always struggled with was hardware never catching up to the software. The second aspect that I kind of look at is the fact that it's not being marketed as a B2C. And I think it's actually always been B2B, but I'm kind of looking at what's going to break the market into getting into the C market. And I think a few years ago when Pokemon was kind of released and everybody was saying, oh, this is AR, and people in the industry saying this is not AR, but it's a great way for people to actually use something and follow it and actually use software that's developed from companies like ourselves. And getting into the future, I think the most important thing is getting back into that marketing, especially with AR. It's no longer that barcode or QR code, which people struggled with, 5, 6, 7, even almost 10 years ago now. Once people are educated that you no longer need that barcode or the QR code or whatever people call it, and you can literally just place somebody in the room or scan a billboard and have somebody talk to you, walk through a shopping mall, be able to point at a store and they give you the sales, the new products. Do you see something in the window? You can literally point at that dress or those pair of pants. They could tell you if they have your size, where to find them. And I think that's where I'm excited about. And I'm hoping where we finally break into that consumer market, because there's been so many, over all the years, content that's been created by big brands, but the industry's never seen them and the consumer's never seen them. It's always been the B2B. So I think marketing is probably going to be key for this year. I remember, I think it was back 2015, 2016, where they said, "Oh, VR, the year of VR," and working on some of the greatest VR projects. Very fortunate to be around some amazing people and some companies that invested into it. But I've been preaching AR for many years now, and I'm just kind of waiting for that turn to happen. I think Apple's definitely going to be stepping up their game. I think roughly Apple 10 or 10s or something, they're talking about new technology, especially just focusing on AR. And that's
I think it is. Oh, sorry. I think it is going into AR. I mean, everyone that we talk to is VR is now into the enterprise based, and unless you're in gaming and entertainment, it's not where people expected it to be, and people are fine to admit that now. Well, most people, but I think, but AR. I mean, I find most of the people that I'm talking to are really into AR and really into mixed reality, and especially like you said in retail. I mean, Walmart's doing it, Home Depot's doing it, IKEA started it with all of what they're doing, and that is going into the consumer's hands and doing it. So I think with the right hardware and more design-based, it's great with those easy assets, like, here's how this IKEA chair will look in your room. But I think more mainstream, that design and that content is also catching up to where it needs to be so that people don't feel like it's almost like a fake experience, but it's real. And I think that design and that's coming in. I think I was reading an article where someone's like, 2019 is still going to be the year of like the, rainbow unicorns on your phone and your emoji where things are shooting out of your head and that sort of thing because your iPhone's cool. But I think that the AR is really going to take off in that way. And I think Joe's totally right in that. And then there's so much more support. And then there's, systems where we can track, and people have companies now tracking 3D assets, which is super important as well. So I think that that's going to make a huge difference this year, but I think this year is growing, and I think this year should be a lot about the content creation and the design of it.
And there's a lot more software now out there.
The tons, like you get Sumerion, and you've got like all kinds of great programming that's coming out, and things that are easy for people to learn and play with. Like, Microsoft's always had a great user group. Magic Leap put out, they're going to announce who got accepted into their developer program any day now. Probably next week at NWC. But then there's so many other programs where you can learn and design and play with it that are great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Facebook and all of that. And you just mentioned it, Sumerian, Amazon Sumerian, for instance, actually has this, twist that probably will also influence, I think, what 2019 will be, which is augmented reality through the web. So when I look at this, there are two major impacts that I see, and I would like you to comment on that if this makes sense. So the first one is not being able to enjoy the experience without installing the apps. So just that, and by everything being online, so at the same level, we are then able to create search engines for augmented reality experiences. So in that sense, my question is, will the next Google be our smartphone camera?
That's a good question.
I remember I was living in the Middle East, and this was probably about 8-9 years ago, and I remember speaking to a gentleman in the education field there, and he was asking me about this technology, and I kept on saying, we'll have no more computers. Maybe the cell phone might be around. We don't need any more laptops or any of that. We literally will have our phone, or we'll have a headset, and we no longer will have to type into a screen, or if not, it'll be virtual. And the fact that we won't need Google, Facebook, let's say maps or anything, or literally our phone, which I call our third hand now, will give us all that information. I think what's important, especially with the web AR, is again, and I keep on saying this to everybody, it's marketing, and we have to educate people. This technology has been in our phones, or it's been online already for a while now, but the key players really have to educate the consumers. And you're slowly starting to kind of see that, with a little Spider-Man where you could point your phone and, you could stand, or you could play around with Spider-Man, take some photos, post them. That social side I think is great, and that's what's happening now in 2019. But I think 2020 will finally start to get those big brands pushing the software, the AR, to the actual consumers themselves. So, yeah.
Do you think that will happen through the web, or
I could be honest, and I'm not a big fan of the AR web. I think the fact that we all have probably 30 or 40 apps in our phones that we don't even use anymore, right? And we thought, they were a great idea and everything. And I think once we kind of have that platform of AR, if it's a cloud base, if it's a web base, or even if it's just on a separate whole network where you literally download one thing, you turn on your camera, and then you can start your journey. At the moment, there are multiple layers to that, and we found after the third or second click, if you're not doing or being stimulated, you no longer use that. So I think for me, I can't say I'm the biggest fan of WebAR. I want it all on my phone or all on a headset, and I think that's the direction where it's going. So, but again, I think the most important thing for all of this technology is, again, marketing, and to work with brands like Warner Music, like we are, with FIT in New York, and the list just goes on. I think those are the brands that have the big consumers behind them in the backing, and they should be educating the consumer.
Okay. And Marie, can we have the hope of seeing on the VR and AR summit, VR and AR Global Summit Europe?
Yes.
Some of the WebAR players?
Yes, yeah, definitely. Just working on securing a lot of them, but we've confirmed that like Magic Leap will be there. Microsoft most likely will be there. I'm certain they will. And then we're talking to a lot of international people working in it. I met some great people when I was in the UK the other week who are doing avatars that come through your Skype and all kinds of interesting. It's always interesting, and it's hard to plan what will be, but yeah, I mean, when we did the event in Vancouver, we had like Matt from 60.ai, who was incredible, and new and upcoming companies like Shape Immersive and all kinds of other great people that are working in that field. And as I explore and find people throughout Europe to come and speak, this is a hot topic. Definitely a hot topic. And I started doing shows 3 years ago, and it was a consumer-based show. And what I'm curating now for this is an entirely different market. It's all enterprise, but the whole market has changed dramatically since some VR gaming that made you feel a little nauseous, but was still fun.
Pick it up from here. We were talking a bit about how the WebAR is going to, well, not so much the WebAR, but how bringing all of the digital assets onto our world as digital twins will have a huge impact. One thing, and you were talking about 10 minutes ago about how IKEA, how all these major retailers are right now looking towards augmented reality as a way for them to promote their own products, and how, for instance, Sumerian is in itself promoting the scanning of the products. And I also think that the scanning, being able to actually bring good quality experiences based on real life goods are really interesting right now as again, a marketing tool. And more than that, I guess that Amazon, again, all the big retailers will be missing out probably at the end of 2019 if they do not start thinking about this, because again, it is something that actually accelerates the decision time and accelerates also our capability to share the experience with the person that we're going to design with, right? So I don't know, Joe, what do you think about this 3D scanning, and what interesting experiences did you see in the last time?
I think over all the years, 3D scanning has drastically changed. It almost looks so realistic. I was actually one of the people that were fortunate to work on one of the first IKEA projects to do with AR. And we were working in the Middle East with it. But our scanning was pretty bad. We actually used to use a handheld scanner, and the pixels, the color, even the whole frame rate and everything just wasn't at par. And I think a lot of the companies that were trying to use this software, which needed it as a sales and marketing tool back then, I think kind of ran into that problem. Now we have scanners that could literally scan the hair off of your beard or in your nose, or you could even see the pores in your face. So I think once one of these big brands releases something that's so realistic, then I think everybody else will start to follow the trend.
Okay. So. And you, Anne Marie, have you tried any scanner solution? Starting with those mobile phones towards more industrial things.
I haven't tried them. I mean, I've seen a lot more of great 3D scanning. It's going a little bit off topic, but a lot of the people that are working doing museum work and tourism work, like scanning monuments and doing that sort of thing. There's this awesome company in Vancouver called Umibao, and they were scanning articles at the Vatican, and then doing a VR sculpture art exhibit with a Japanese artist where you put them there. And so I think it's not just retail and enterprise, but it's also like that museum aspect. And like there's a lot of companies working with, like I just saw Joanna Popper speaking about all their work with the Smithsonian and all of that. I think those digital assets are amazing, and all different software being used, but really incredible use of that. And I find that fascinating, but I'm an art fan. So, but I think Joe's right. Like it used to look pixelated, and it was just cool that you could have a table through your phone and on a carpet. But now I think there's a lot of different ways to do that. And I'm like the tourism side of it and the art side of it. I'm most excited for.
And also education for this.
Education is great too. Yeah.
I actually was in this. I was in this small training session, like 3 hours with 60 teachers, and they had like this notion of what augmented reality could be, but just the empowerment that I felt in the room when they kind of got the notion that they could have, like as you said, like a work of art, like an equipment that they couldn't really find anywhere in Portugal, right there, right now, just with a click of a button, and then explore it and showcase that to their students. Again, it's a huge benefit, and it's all due to the fact that we can actually produce these digital twins. So
you got like Google Earth and VR that started kids being able to learn about the world, and then if you can add all of those monuments and different things on top of it, it's such a world. Like we homeschool our child, and that's how we teach him. Like we taught him about Portugal before he moved here by going on Google Earth and then going to the different parts and learning about that and the food and everything. It's that's revolutionary for education. It's great.
It is, and well, probably in 2019 we will have even more of these scanners available. I've seen one for industrial purposes, just for that, but that was really, as you said, like the pores could be seen, and overall most of those that we can get on an app everyday basis, like Sprout for HP that we can buy anywhere, or even the software, the scans that we can get from softwares where we install those on iPads and all of those are like steps towards what we need to have, right? Which is, again, assets so that we can actually create a huge user experience. But to have that, I think that we still have this big thing to conquer, which is context. I think that we have, it's not still being discussed or taught. I think we have I don't know anything about design, but I feel that we need to have like specialists that pick up on the interaction design principles and apply them to context in a way that we are able to use the easiest way possible the tools that augmented reality provides us inside that context, which is different from that context, because this one has a curve, that one has so a wall. It is very different. So I think that we pretty much covered like 3 driving forces for 2019. We will do the next webinar will be where it's going to happen in 1 year, and were we right in that driving part? And that's the fun, right? So of course, all of this, any of this is futurism. We are just discussing what we think are driving forces. Of course, a major player can shake all of this, and maybe in like 1 week and a half, we'll have more news inside the augmented reality space that will probably turn these driving forces upside down. Still, It was great having you. It was great talking to you a bit about all of this, as it is always great to share with experts such as you. And furthermore, what I also wanted to ask any of you, if you have any questions, any doubts, you are more than welcome to share by sending an email or just adding on the comments of this video. You are more than welcome. And meanwhile, I will see you all in the next webinar. Thank you very much.